Jessica.
Okay. We're
Good
ready.
evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a meeting of the Land Use Committee of Community Board number 8. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, can I have that attendance sheet, please? Sorry. Charles Mogler,
Present.
Marty Wolhoff,
Present.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Lee Chung,
Here.
okay. Adriana Rivera is absent, Daniel Rowan is absent, Jessica Sosa. Here. And Laura Spalter is absent. We have a quorum.
All right. We have a relatively short agenda, although there will be a late starting item, which I can tell you involves a question that we have to think about concerning whether or not it really makes sense to build housing in areas that are not normally reserved for housing, such as golf courses and parks.
Green space.
Maybe we should have a quick few minutes. This will be something we can deal with while people get together here. There's some thought being given to the possibility of building housing on something like, say, the Van Cortlandt Park golf course. Let me be very clear, you cannot build on parkland anything without permission of the state legislature. And let me also be clear that Assemblyman Dinowitz has made it very clear in writing over his dead body. Is that gonna happen here?
Correct.
And I thank him for it. Not the dead body, but being, as always, upright, and standing up for the community. But the question I have for you is whether we want to go on record as just stating the concept of building on parkland is something we support.
Oh, excuse me, support or
No.
not support?
Do not support
we do not.
building, but support the prohibitions as they exist.
Well, just, Chuck, if I may add, this issue came up at the Parks Committee meeting
Right.
recently. And the Parks Committee went on record as saying that, it's opposed to, development of parks property. So, you know, if land use is a different
No,
matter, we can take up the issue as well.
does anybody here have a view that favors construction of housing on parkland?
No.
Marty?
I don't support it. Oh,
So then let me make the motion that the Land Use Committee stands opposed to any construction on parkland, housing or otherwise, that is not park related.
And not for the general benefit of the community, as opposed to the specific benefit of residents.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? I believe we have a unanimous vote. Good,
Okay.
thank you. That takes us to, first of all, let's approve the minutes.
Oh, great.
Get that done. Are there any comments, questions or concerns respecting the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion? I'll make the
To
motion.
approve.
Bob made the motion to approve. Is there a second, Marty?
second.
All those in favor, contrary minded, done. Okay, now we get,
Okay,
it was unanimous.
voted on the minutes,
Yeah.
just so you know.
So now Dan's here, so there was more.
I guess you had one.
That takes us to 5294 Sycamore. Mr. Field here?
Mr. Field is here. I'm trying to get my camera working, sorry.
You-
You need me to
There we go.
share your screen?
And I can do a share screen, sure. It's not turned on, I'll request it.
Are you on? We okay?
Sam, if you share a screen.
Yeah, I just.
Yep, here we go.
Mr. Field, we have the certificate of mailing. There was a letter received after the board meeting, after the land use meeting that last occurred, somebody who shares a portion of the area with your client, who claims he had not received it and just was watching generally to see what was going on. Let me ask, is that person on at the moment?
There was someone in.
Hearing nothing, I assume not. So let me try and paraphrase his concern. Under the proposal, you propose to construct something which spans an area that now has not been constructed upon, is that correct?
No,
There's every piece of the area that you propose to construct on is already the subject of some form of construction, is that it?
correct.
And there is no portion of the footprint of the land that was previously built upon, pardon me, that was previously not built upon, that is now going to be built upon, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, what have you done concerning the subject of additional water runoff?
So there is no additional water runoff. We are not changing the pervious nature of the property. There's no, should I quickly go through the presentation to refresh us?
Sure.
Okay, so this is 5294 Sycamore Avenue.
Yes.
Okay, it's here at the corner of Sycamore and 254th Street. In the landmark district, it's a landmarks as well as a natural area project. It's landmarks because it's in the district. We're building on top of a garage and paved area that is presently in the back of the house. From Sycamore, you're looking uphill at the house. There will be a small portion here visible. You'll see that later. Looking up the driveway from 254th, this is the existing garage that you see. We are building on top of that. Skipping ahead in the plans here, there was a previous addition. Our limited sight lines, again, from Sycamore uphill to this back corner that will be above the raised garage. And again, up the driveway. This is all hardscape. Right now it's asphalt. So there's no change in water runoff. That will all be captured by the existing dry wells and disposal system. In terms of the volume we're creating, this is the area above the garage. It's lower than the ridge of the main house, and it's in the back. What that looks like up the driveway, you see here we have the garage that's existing. These are our neighbors. I'll submit a letter of support from them. We are taking detailing from the existing house. We're adding bedrooms here in the back for our client's children and expanding the living room.
Yeah.
From Sycamore, we did a mock-up for landmarks. You can see here, there's a small piece that's visible. Zoomed in, it looks like this. And in rendering, zoomed in, it will look like that. You'll see a window poking through the trees. In terms of other houses in the district that have said substantial additions visible from the street, this is uphill on Independence. Other projects that are similar in nature from Fieldston, where an addition above a garage or an addition visible from the street are included here for reference. These were recently approved by Landmarks. And this is where we are.
Let me, for the record's sake, I live a couple blocks away. I have, in about 1975, 1980, constructed over the garage in approximately the same fashion. My house is not visible from West 254th Street, but it is likewise part of both the natural area district and the historic district area. Go ahead, Mr. White. Mr. Field.
So from the natural area side of things, I can switch to that set. We are building above the garage. We just talked about that. We're not increasing drainage. We're not increasing runoff. We are not damaging any trees. We plan to accommodate contractor space and parking in our shared driveway. This is easement to the property behind us. So that will be coordinated with the neighbors. We have denoted this whole area as a construction zone. So we will be taking care to keep everything on what is already a paved surface, not to damage the natural landscape. The shared driveway here is important. Last time we spoke, we wanted to be sure that these neighbors here were both notified and they've submitted a letter of support, which you have in front of you with the certificate of mailing list. This is a letter of support from Chris and Sarah, who are the abutters, direct neighbors, and driveway sharers of Mr. Martin. And they're in support. They've reviewed the plans in detail with their architect, and we're going to work together with them to resolve any construction and access issues so they're not disturbed. Back to questions.
Let me ask you the following. How do you propose to deal with construction equipment? By that I mean, will you undertake to keep the trucks off the road in this expansive driveway?
Correct. The trucks will be kept off of 254th. There's no room on that street between the construction, the roads, SAR. So they will not be there. They will be kept in the driveway and limit impact to the neighborhood and the school.
Will you please send us a letter signed by your clients undertaking to do so?
I will request that.
Please do try and get it before the board meeting, because that will become an issue otherwise.
I will
All right.
request that.
The meeting
Yes.
on Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, April 8th.
All right,
Yes.
any other questions?
Yes, if I may, could you please clarify in my mind, as I look at this picture, and I asked last time what that gate, which is not here now, I
This
guess it
piece
is.
here, this
Yeah.
piece here.
I mean, how does that easement work? And how are you going to protect it?
So let me see if I can go back and show you the gate where it exists. I mean, the gate, this is the same rendering, right? The gate's right here now, behind behind the garage. This gate is actually on the Martins' property. If we go all the way back to the survey, sorry. This is the back of the garage, and the gate is right there on the back of the garage. You'll see that their property actually goes up onto the parking tarmac of their neighbors for the descriptive purposes. All of that will remain unchanged once the construction's done. We will probably be removing that gate, again, in conjunction with the neighbors and in cooperation with the neighbors to facilitate construction. But there's an existing retaining wall. You can see a little piece of it here on the survey that is going to remain in place. We're building on top of the garage, so none of this driveway is going to be affected. In fact, we have to take special care not to do that because they've recently redone all this driveway and there's something they're concerned about. So it's construction means and methods that will be sequenced and maintain access to their house. They're not going anywhere. They live there. That's the only way to get to their house.
One thing I thought I saw in one of the pictures, and I have to go back and look which one, strikes me that there are patios in back of the garage.
Back in this aerial view shows what I will call the parking area or the parking tarmac of the neighbor. This is at the roof level of the existing garage. We have a lower patio that's a first floor patio from the existing house. That's right here. I'll go to these views. This view sort of explains where the neighbor's parking is up high, and in back our lower patio. And those are going to remain unchanged.
All right, well, it strikes me that if we have a letter from that neighbor expressing no objection, then I don't have an objection.
Anybody else have any questions on the board? Any person who is not a member of the land use committee who has a question, please let me know. Going once, going twice, going 3 times on the motion to approve. Motion to approve. Subject to the receipt, Mr. Field, of that letter.
Understood.
Understood. So approval is subject to the receipt prior to Tuesday of a letter signed by one or more of the owners indicating that the construction equipment will be retained within the property line, not on either of the 2 streets.
And it won't block the easement access?
And in a fashion that will not block it as best they can. If they can't do it, the people have to just have another driver move the truck back and forth.
Exactly. It will be cooperative with the neighbors. They have a good relationship now and they don't want to have a bad relationship.
On the motion to approve, or I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Contrary minded,
Everyone raised. in favor.
unanimous.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Field.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members. And I'll get you the letter.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Very good. Now we get to the subcommittee, the long suffering. Marty, you're on.
Well, as bad as the relationship has been with the developer, Dennis and company, it's just as bad as not worse. The need to have some communication. He doesn't communicate at all. And as a result, the neighbors never know what to expect next. The construction going on Sedgwick Avenue, replacing the library and putting up that new apartment house. We just have to guess what's happening. 2 houses next door on Sedgwick, where the owner does not want to sell, is really barraged by stone removal, by all kinds of equipment. And when I suggested to Dennis that there be some kind of method by which they ensure that a baseline, so that if any damage were created by their operation, Dennis scoffed at me. We don't do that. Well, the fact is, stuff is going on, vibrations are taking place, and we have no idea what damage might have been will be created. Just recently, maybe Monday, I was informed that even though we had asked about what's going to happen to the beautiful trees on Sedgwick and Stevenson and gotten our answer, well, those trees have pretty much have come down with no prior notice. So the relationship between the developer and the neighborhood and the community board is basically at a zero. And I
Let
find
me
that
be
extremely,
clear, Marty,
yes,
in case, the developer is listening. Should the developer seek to develop elsewhere in the community board district? And it come before me, the developer, should know I have a very long memory.
well, we know we have 3111 Henry Hudson Parkway, but that may have caused a
I have
schism
a
in the
very
first place.
long memory.
All right, just two other items on this. Um, number one is that I wrote a letter to Eric, basically apologizing. I had been presuming all along that he or the members of his staff would be monitoring what we've been doing. I don't know if that's true or not. So I wrote Eric a long letter asking for a meeting and outlining all of the issues, or most of the issues, that have befallen the community. His office got back saying they were going to set up a meeting with the developer. Farah asked whether or not we'd be invited to that meeting, to which there was no response. So I don't know what Eric is or will do, but I hope to do some mitigation with respect to the destruction of those trees that apparently did not happen, will not happen. Another issue is on Stevenson Place. We reported earlier they cut up a private house into tiny rooms. We were advised that a particular agency was taking responsibility. I wrote to that agency. Apparently, it didn't get to the person I thought it should have, and Farah followed up. And the person with whom she was in contact is a member of that agency, but knows nothing about this development. So we have to do a little bit more research. Although Farah told me that there is advertisement for studio apartments in that building. Quite strange, because what the reports are to me is that the rooms are extremely tiny. It was identified, described as arm width length, the width of those apartments. And the last item on this is we've been notified, I will say at this moment through rumor, that the Van Cortlandt Jewish Center has been sold. There is some kind of plan to give the synagogue alternate facilities so the synagogue can continue. But at this moment, I have no real facts to report to you other than what I've just said. So it's good news and bad news. Good news that the building has finally been sold or will be sold. And the bad news is we really have no idea what the future of the synagogue membership or the potential disuse, replacement of that building might be. That's all I have.
I have two things to add. Three. One, I will talk to Eric Dinowitz, council member. If I can get him tonight and ask him to be in touch with you so he can move that forward. I know he will be cooperative, because he and I have talked about it, and he's indicated that. So I will talk to Eric tonight. Number two, I've asked Farah to call in Isaac Kritzler, who is the developer of these whatever they're called. I call them single room occupancies. And the board will have, and the land use committee will have an opportunity to talk to them about it. It's very troublesome, especially given the fact that two of our three council members didn't give a damn about SROs and just went ahead and voted for the portion of the city of Yes that endorsed SROs. The consequences obviously will be on their heads. But I will tell you that Frank Hogan, decades ago, made it very clear that they are a principal source of criminal activity, fire activity, and health activity. And that is not in the public interest. And that is why I cracked down on and closed them out. And I would hope in the next administration, the next building commissioner will do the same. And I will do what I can to achieve that result. Number three, I have a question for you, Marty.
Okay.
To what extent, if any, has any information gotten to your subcommittee as to the tax assessments of newly constructed housing and the like in this area? In other words, have there been recent visits to the area by the assessor to determine the fair appraised value so that the tax rate can be set?
I have no knowledge of that, but it's worth looking into.
If we can get that information, I can have a conversation with the finance administrator in the next week or so to see if that needs to be done. As a way of persuading Dennis, among other things, to be a little bit more forthcoming for the benefit of the community.
How would, explain that, Chuck, how would that work?
Well, if the assessment on the property is X, and an assessor actually visits the site rather than taking the information from the plans, he or she may find that the assessment should be higher than it currently is, therefore subject to
To a higher
increased
tax.
taxation.
Mhm.
These folks, the way they're going, they're costing the community something. And if they are costing the community something, the city of New York should be costing them something for the benefit of that community indirectly. So let's see if we can accommodate that for them.
All right,
It's just equity.
yeah, thanks.
So will you
Oh.
check that out, Marty?
We know that the library didn't have a tax assessment. The synagogue doesn't have a tax assessment. So,
Oh, that's
Who knows?
why I'm saying they're gonna have to be reassessed
mhm.
upwards. All right. Is there anything else we can do to be helpful? This is a delicate community. It has to be preserved.
May I add some additional information at the appropriate time?
Sure, go ahead.
It was not exactly a red letter week, I would say, for Van Cortlandt Village. From Sunday to today, the sale was voted on by the congregation of the Van Cortlandt Jewish Center. I think it was an irregular vote in the sense that the congregation was never shown the purchase sales agreement prior to being asked to vote. So they didn't actually know what they were voting for.
Have you notified the Attorney General's office?
I have not personally.
The Attorney General, since this is a not-for-profit entity,
No.
a religious corporation, will have to either sign off or accept it for filing, otherwise it can't go through. If it was irregular, I think the Attorney General's office ought to look at it. I'm happy to forward it to the Attorney General. If you can give me a memorandum of what happened, I will have to have it prior to the 10th, otherwise a couple of weeks are gonna go by, we'll have none around.
Okay, excellent, we'll do that. So,
either a conversation with Abba or with Gary Axelbank, I brought this up, that the issue of the synagogue definitely belongs with the Attorney General's office. And it was told to me that through Jeff, they had already made contact. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was weeks ago.
Well, let's find out.
I would say it's also, from what the information that was relayed to the congregation, they had a week to, make up their minds, which was not a lot of time. It's a complicated deal. So it involves,
When's the vote?
what,
When's the vote?
the vote happened on Sunday.
Oh,
So there was voted, the vote is done, but the deal was complex and it involves it involves kicking out the Marshall Montefiore Community Center. Pre-K that's there already, so they're gonna be kicked out at the end of the year. So the neighborhood, as you said, it's a delicate neighborhood chunk. It's already lost JASA for seniors. Now we'll be losing pre-K as well. It's, an organization called South Bronx Charter Schools that is either, managed by this developer, will be apparently moving into the building for 2 years and paying rent to the congregation. At that point, when that's done, the idea seems to be that the building will be knocked down and a 16-story building will be built in its place. Or an 6 to 8 story building will be built in lieu of the synagogue, and the historically significant Denishon house will be razed to the ground. And another 6-story building will be built there, in addition to something being called the new synagogue building, a 5,000 square foot facility. So in effect, according to this plan, you will have what we've been talking about, I think, for the past year and a half come to fruition. This entire area in the heart of Van Cortlandt Village will go from senior, services for seniors, for children and green space, and a synagogue. It will go to being effectively paved over completely with an extremely large amount, a dense amount of housing in a very small space.
if you could get that to me very soon,
Tonight,
that's good, because I will get in touch with the AG tomorrow.
okay.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this subject? Is there?
The
course,
only thing to say,
With the
Go ahead, Mark.
AG, thank you, with the AG, the second question is what's going to happen to the funds that the so-called leadership will have as a result of the sale?
It's supposed to be about $4 million, which is a lot of money, and it's not clear what
Wow.
controls will be in place for that.
Wow, on this one, I mean, your budget's probably not even $500,000.
I'm
What
not.
strikes me, the AG needs to be on top, the AG needs to be on top of this. That the money is spent wisely and
That
protected
question
for the
in my
benefit
mind.
of the congregation.
Okay.
the only thing,
If you can put that in a memo that I can get tomorrow, I can get it out over the weekend to the Assistant Attorney General who handles this thing.
Done, yeah.
I mean, the only thing to add is that it really is unfortunate. This is going to be a complete transformation of this area that was largely 1 or 2 family homes. And it's going to look totally different now. The trees are already gone. It's sad. And unfortunately, because of the zoning, there's very little we can do about it. I mean, the question of the sale of the synagogue is a whole different issue. And it may be possible to do something about that, but, we're looking at a neighborhood being transformed.
Well, you bring to my mind an issue, so I may as well discuss it, although it's not gonna be able to be effective on this site, but elsewhere. The Corporation Counsel's Office and the Conflict of Interest Board take the position the community boards are not permitted to engage in political activity. Whereas the people who influence the process. Not only do they buy the process, and indeed, the people who are in the various agencies all engage in political activity. Either they are like Dan Garodnick running for the next job, or the like. One thought I would like the committee to give some thought to, and then before it's implemented, I can have a conversation with COIB, is the creation of a separate entity called Community Board NO8, Community Board Member PAC, a separate political entity where the members are those board members of the community board who wish to be, not must be, not are, but who wish to be, and which can then take positions, raise money in support of that. Because it seems to me that this is something that is designed to avoid having communities have the full vote. With the mayoral election coming on, that becomes of particular importance, especially with respect to local offices, whether they be city council members or they be borough presidents or they be mayors. I'd like you to think about it because I'd like to explore that as we go through the next few weeks. I have been in touch with a former partner of mine who is the preeminent expert on election law, and spoke to him this morning. And I think this is something that we may be able to do. The question is, do we want to go down that road? The negative argument is it does politicize at least those members of the board who are simultaneously members of this. There's nothing that bars me as an individual from engaging in whatever political activity I want to, nor you. And so we can do that independently of this. There's nothing that says that one of our members, who's a district leader, I believe, is that right? That's a little closer. COIB hasn't ruled on that one yet. But you have that kind of thing happening, querying whether the board is awarded. Think about it, if you will, and let me have your views, all right?
And the idea being what exactly? What would be the
The
mission?
idea is the following: assume for the sake of argument, just that the consensus within the board is we do not want in this community board district any SROs, just as a hypothetical, okay? And we have the example, the council member who has the predominant portion of the district, Eric Denowitz, voted against that and worked against it. It was unsuccessful. Among those who didn't give a damn were the two council members from the other piece. Query, is that something that people ought to know about? And we can't, as a board, take that position, but that group could.
I see.
Well, we can certainly, that vote was held as public knowledge. We can always say one of our council representatives voted against the city of Yes, two of them voted in favor.
Right. That you can do in any event.
Exactly.
The question is to what extent can we do any more than that? So for example, can that new group take a position in opposition? I apologize.
Well, we can always, as you said, as individuals,
Right.
take positions, we can vote for or
That's
against somebody. We can raise money or contribute to campaigns, or, contribute to the candidate we want, whether that's the incumbent candidate or a challenger.
But if you have 10 like-minded people, that has greater influence than one or two individuals. All I'm trying to do is to see how you can maximize it. I have no doubt in my mind, none, that it is to our advantage as a community representative to have the political clout to be able to say and have the respect of the assembly member who is willing to go out and fight the good fight for us. Now, if we have this, perhaps the other two council people might do the same. It may not be worth it on that one issue. I'm not focused on the issue at the moment. I'm focused on the concept in trying to illustrate. And you made the absolute correct point. And additionally amplifying on it, the fact that Sam is a member of the board and would be a member of that separate entity is going to necessarily impact on how he votes as a board member. That's the negative. Positive is he could do that anyway.
But what you're talking about, Chuck, I think would involve changing the city charter. Because the description, the definition of the community board comes out of the city charter. And if we're setting up a different entity.
No, this is in addition, not in.
All right, well, it would have to, okay, then it would have to change, the city charter would have to change the definition of what
No.
community board is.
No, let me restate that. I'm glad you read it. There will continue to be exactly what the city charter provides of a community board. There will be a separate entity in which 9 out of 12 community board members have decided they want to participate in that can take a parallel action to support as a group the positions that the community board takes where they agree that they want to do that.
So this would be an entity that would just be self-created and
Correct.
self-generating.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Now, that may not make sense. Here's my concern. We have gone in my lifetime from the community planning board that was created with the concept that it would be the community planning board and plan for the community. That's why the police district lines were made essentially to parallel the community board district. Why they were required under the charter to be in constant communication and cooperative with the community board. Same thing with each of the other city agencies. As time has gone on, the normal struggle that occurs in a city occurred in this context. The normal struggle is between centralized government and decentralized. As originally contemplated under the Koch administration and with Fritz Schwartz as the corporation counsel, it was contemplated there would be the decentralization of government to the extent that the community would have an outlet other than the Northwest Bronx Coalition or one of the other things. It would have a community nexus. And that community nexus would have limited but specifically city authorized powers that are advisory. That's why you have the city and the borough seals on your letterhead.
But Chuck, I mean, this is an independent, private entity.
Absolutely,
The PAC.
absolutely.
The PAC that's independent and private,
Absolutely,
and anybody could join it. You don't have to
absolutely,
be a board member, you don't.
absolutely.
So I don't think the charter would have any say in
No,
that.
not
Oh.
that, no.
Okay.
My point is, the pendulum has swung so completely over to centralized. They take the federal government. At the moment, it's on its way to an autocracy.
That's,
All right.
that's a whole other subject.
Not a pleasant one either. And I speak as the former president of the New York Young Republican Club. Having said that, the idea is community boards outside of the island of Manhattan have very little respect by this administration and the preceding one. In the island of Manhattan, only a couple of them have any respect. Oh, in Lower Manhattan, the west side and the east side. But that's for reasons other than that they are physically located there, there is wealth and power in that area.
Yeah, there are people on those boards who have been in government, there are people on those boards who are going to be in government, yes. And
All right.
everybody knows it.
And so the point is, something has to be done to bring it back. What Marty has been going through is a classic example of the problem of centralized government. Here is a developer whose position quite blatantly is, I don't give a damn what the community or the community board want to do.
Right.
I want to go out and make money,
Right.
Yeah.
all right?
No doubt.
And I wish him well, but I don't wish him well where he does that in violation of what is a public responsibility and a moral
Right.
responsibility.
Right.
And those balances have to be brought into play again. They're not there now. And frankly, I don't see any candidate for mayor, including the one I support, who is likely to push the button to send it back to decentralized. And that's an issue. If we do not do that now, New York City, I don't give city of New York, I don't give this community 10 years.
Well, you're putting your finger on what's bothering me so much about what's going on in Van Cortlandt now. We're watching this play out step by step. You know, the library is gone, the trees just came down yesterday, it was heartbreaking. The seniors facilities are gone, childcare facilities are gone, and the synagogue is gonna be gone. There's no planning here, it's just this helter-skelter demolition, and I can't understand how it's possible in a city with.
It's not that there's no planning, it's that there is nobody with the ability to regulate who cares.
Okay. I'm sure you're right, and the net result is watching this slow motion disaster, and it's really, really horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, these were all institutions the community depended on.
That's
the
correct.
library, the child care, the senior care, and now they're
The
lost.
synagogue, I
Yeah.
mean, that's correct.
Yeah.
And how is it possible? This is okay, it's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, I mean, this really is a classic example of what can go wrong.
Mm-hmm,
You know, I mean, seriously, that's what it is.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe we should write an article, maybe the Times should write an article about it.
I'd like us to think about this, because I will not let it rest, and I will bring it back in one form or another. But I feel very strongly that there are just forces around who just don't give a damn.
Mhm.
And they're powerful forces, and there's no opposition. It's no different from the Congress of the United States, which has gone to sleep in metamorphosis.
Well, in fairness, Chuck, there are a lot of community-based organizations in in this community and elsewhere in the city. Riverdale Main Streets Alliance is an example. There are, you know, all these different groups. They don't have the power, of course, but they do have, well-connected people in some instances.
Correct.
And the ability to have some
Now, let me give
influence.
you an example.
Mhm.
I have an enormous amount of respect for Sharita Boston, who I think is one of the finest people I've ever met.
Mhm.
She helps with, and is president, I believe, of the
Riverdale Nature
Riverdale
Conservancy.
Nature Preservancy.
Mhm.
They have a bully pulpit at most.
Mhm.
We have a little bit more,
Mhm.
but not a hell of a lot more.
Mhm.
We have a bully pulpit of saying to the council people, this is your community board. You named a portion of the members of this board,
Mhm.
and you owe it a responsibility. It's an organized entity that has that kind of thing. And we think you ought to listen.
Mhm.
It's just a notch different. My point is, somebody's gotta wake it up, because this thing is gonna go from bad to worse to really ugly. This problem over there is clearly a portent of things to come, absent intervention.
No, as I said, this is.
This board was
situation.
this board was able to do a great deal together with community interests in the area around, what the hell's in the area? Up near, where Van Cortlandt, the amalgamated in that area, what's that called?
Well, that's been Cortland Village.
Yeah.
No, where the amalgamated is.
Yeah, it's across the street.
It's a little bit down the road. That's when there were efforts to build housing up there and the people weren't listening. About 10 years ago, I think you were on the board at the time.
Oh, I've been on the board for 18 years.
I know Marty was.
19
We
years.
were able to take a position.
Oh, okay.
We're lucky we have a president of the community board
Mhm.
who cares. And so I think that is something that will help us move this thing forward. Just think about what can we do?
Mhm. In this instance, honestly, we've done all we could, given the parameters we were dealing with.
Correct.
Every time, some problem was brought to our attention, it was referred to the buildings department, it was referred to DEP. At that point, it's out of our hands. We can't enforce the building code, we
Have
can't.
they started construction? Oh, you can enforce the building code, no way.
They have a 3870, and I did want to share this with you, Farah, today. They're putting new scaffolding up that is clearly damaging or going to interfere with the street trees.
So,
I did.
Farah, would
Did you
you
email
please,
No, no, I didn't.
Farah, would you please ask DOB that we would like to have an inspection of that for safety and security?
And maybe parks.
Correct.
And they park through street trees.
All right?
Mhm.
And then we should do that on a regular basis, so that they do understand.
There's a hand raised.
Understand, we had a real problem throughout this board with a developer that Marty came to deal with. Marty,
Down below.
who's below?
Go on.
Marty and the subcommittee and we did a hell of a job of the Stag Building on Riverdale Avenue. That was where community input was able to do it.
Mhm.
Stag was willing to cooperate with them. Why? Because we were able to persuade DOT to stop the nonsense and let them park where they had to park.
Mhm.
That's the kind of things that the community board can do.
Mhm.
The question is, what can we do to strengthen that? I would much prefer the carrot to the stick. It's much easier.
What role?
To give you the credit for setting up that relationship with Stag. They weren't willing in the beginning. Jay had his problems with our presence. We established a relationship, but your presence and your name always helped get things go forward.
But Marty, the key to it, and I appreciate that, everything you did and your colleagues did made that a project that was not the nightmare that everybody predicted.
Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time working and talking with them.
So I'd like you all to think about what it is that we can do to restore that kind of a balance, to create something that the community can use as a vehicle to preserve itself, because otherwise, you've got problems,
You right?
all right?
Mhm.
By my notes, is there any new business? Any
Oh,
over, yes?
yes, so I sit in the housing committee as well. And we had talked about, I had shared a story where, I had a young mother looking for where she can get housing for the night. And I felt like, she stopped the right person, right? Someone who's in the community board, yet I didn't have the answer. And it seemed like she was like walking the streets trying to find out what happened. And it wasn't until I had brought it up that to someone who knew, that they're like, you can't just walk into a shelter and say, house me, right? It's an entire process. And I proposed us developing kind of like, first 5 things to do if you're unhoused, right? Like go to an intake center, talk to someone or whatever. You know, so I know we had chatted about, you know, working with land use about, you know, what we can do regarding like help guiding people to services,
Let me, Jessica, tell you something that's important. The guiding is something that the two Dinowitzes have spent a great deal of time addressing. I know that they put out these flyers on, here's the number to call, here's the person, et cetera. That is something we can do.
And also DHS has these flyers to hand out, and they do that Project Hope when they go out, and exactly that, find
Yeah.
people who need housing and provide, and offer it.
my
You should
concern
take it
is,
from the other side.
go ahead.
Well, I mean, and it would really be, social services, health hospitals and social services committee might wanna set up a guide that would be here in the office. Because you really should be
Yeah,
the
we're just in the
conduit.
middle of nowhere, right? So like, for
Well,
example,
that's
if
true.
we took a day, all of us,
Mhm.
and said, and we just could not go home for the night,
Okay.
right? Like, can you survive the day, right? I just wonder, you know, how that looks like, right? Where it's just like, you would first have to walk to an intake center,
Mhm.
right?
You could also call.
Where's the closest intake
If someone
center?
called
in this
311, they send someone.
So that's
over.
presuming they have a phone.
No, but if, like, say it was you.
Say
could
exactly,
call.
say, but I'm
Yeah,
saying, right,
yeah.
like, someone, and any of us, right?
Mhm.
You have nothing, you have yourself, right?
You can call 311 on those touch screens
But
on
you have the following.
That's true.
on the monoliths.
Just,
I don't even.
You
The
have-
help points or whatever
you
they're
have
called.
three sources that come quickly to mind.
Mhm.
You have Jeffrey's office, you have Eric's office, and you have Farah. Now, it's a much smaller office here,
Yeah, they're
But
on,
it's
by
here.
231st and on Kingsbridge.
and indeed, that was one of the targets that were initially contemplated for community boards to add even to it. Why? What is the title that Addie has?
That what?
What is the title? Is it not community assistant?
Oh,
Artie,
Artie is
Artie.
community,
Associate?
coordinator.
That's why. It was intended that the community board staff would provide that role in coordination with the elected officials. There's an argument going on which may get to the Court of Appeals in New York, is that's the evolution of public officials. In the old days, don't have to go more than 50 years back. Local clubhouses used to have a housing committee. They used to give out maps on where to go to see things. That was the local clubhouse. That changed. The local political clubhouse sort of atrophied. And the elected officials, in many instances, took that up. And in the beginning, community boards took it up. Again, it takes you back to what is it, you want a centralized city or not? I would do that both at the level of borough president and at the level of the mayor, that nobody has it. Give you the best example in the world. When was the last time you spoke to the city's official ombudsman?
I don't even know what an ombudsman is.
His title is, as I recall it, public advocate.
Right.
Mhm.
All right?
Mhm.
When was the last time you saw not Hakeem, what's his name?
Jermaine Williams.
Damani
Williams.
Thank you.
Monty Williams.
All right?
Three of us finally.
We do
That's-
connect
that-
people, by the way, with the.
That
public.
was,
And that's-
that job was created because the city council was changing. There was no longer a citywide elected official called the president of the city council.
Right.
And in order to justify a replacement payroll job, they called it the public advocate, okay? He was supposed to do that. And he may be doing it somewhere, but it ain't here. All right.
Julie has her hand up.
Julie?
Oh, yeah, no, I just heard someone say that we should get together and draw up some information for the homelessness. If you look at the office housing guide, there's there's a section for the homeless. So there's plenty of resources on what to do in case you encounter anyone that's homeless. It's in the
Thank you,
housing
Julie.
resource guide. Take some,
I think-
they're on the way out, and it's quite a few resources and information on exactly what you ran into.
And also, I might add, what you could do as a committee, because these are done by the committees, and we help put it, together for you, but you could take some of those resources if you want and map it out and make a palm card that you might wanna have. And then I can have it printed, so that we could do, and, oh, sorry, David, one more thing.
No.
The electeds have the same, like he said, Eric Dinowitz's office has stuff. They do give us their literature too when we ask for it, so we can also do that to have on hand here.
Our role is policy and planning, and to plan for guides, to plan for, cards, things to give out is fine. But it's the board office and the electeds offices that have people to execute. So we as committees will never execute. But we can set up things where the office can execute, finding a way for this person to get services from DSS and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
Or the elected officials. So if you're not satisfied with the content of the materials that we provide to the individuals, okay, that's something that the committees could work on.
Yeah, I think for me, it was more so like humiliating that I've been a part of the community board for now 1.5 years, and I'm in the housing committee, and that wasn't something I immediately knew.
Yeah.
Which for me, just like identified that you can be a part of the community board and not know how to navigate the resources that exist.
Right.
You see, just.
But didn't you participate in updating it? We just
The
updated it
housing-
recently.
Yes, I know, but what I'm saying is that, like, in that instance, right, like, it's just how I felt, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Jessica, you are unusual by a whole lot of positive standards. But understand, nobody could expect you to understand a community within the short time span that you've been at it that kind of thing. You know a hell of a lot more than 99% of the people who live in the community. And you'll know more next year. in the
which
year.
is why
And
I felt the
also,
way I felt,
A lot
right?
of board members call me and ask me,
Yeah.
I have this issue, what can I do?
Right.
They don't know the answer. They talk to us here at the office. We try to help. That's what we do. We connect we tell you what agencies can help you, things like that. So we try to have more answers for you. So never be shy about that.
Yeah.
As a community board member, you should always be researching, reading. That's the strength of the community board members is having knowledge about a lot of stuff, but you're not gonna know everything.
Yeah, I guess, go ahead.
Just quickly, just to give you an example, January 28th was the Hope homeless count citywide. And I did that with Eric's office. And we were on 231st at Kingsbridge and
Yes,
came
I
across
remember.
a homeless man. And we stopped our count and all that, and Eric organized getting somebody from Bronx Works to intake the fellow. That night, I mean, this is 3 a.m.
Let me make a different point, if I may, which is where I thought you were going. The
Mhm.
chairman of your committee got in touch with me via email and said, what are we gonna do to try and create housing for people who need it? This is this thing I've been screaming at for the past couple of years. Affordable housing is not affordable.
Right, right.
You need affordability more than you need more construction. More construction is touted by the developer industry, which I have represented for years, but have their own viewpoint, which is I want to make money.
Correct.
If I'm investing, I want to make a return,
Mhm.
okay? Our function is to create affordability. that is something that has been lost on the last two administrations.
I agree. And I'd love to focus on that aspect and, you know, talk about affordability as a campaign for Community Board 8.
And the issue in that regard is the following. What they're doing over in your district is not gonna have one really affordable place except an SRO.
Mm-hmm,
And it's there because they're putting sardines in a can.
right? Right.
Jessica, just so you know, we do a district needs statement every year,
Mhm.
and affordable housing has been number one for as long as I can recall.
Let me tell you,
But actually getting affordable housing is the problem.
Right.
Let me tell
We
you,
know we need it.
But
And
your
that's
person
where
was
I'd like
price,
to think better about, you know, strategize around as a
Yeah.
community
my
board.
friend, Mr. Gelman, and I have danced around this issue every single time we've had a cup of coffee. The answers are the following. Developers put their money up and their credit up to make money. That is consistent with the American dream and scheme, okay? But at the same time, there is a responsibility that goes with that on the part of government. So how do I create enough incentive to make it affordable? Well, there are taxes, this is where we have our debate. There are taxes which you should not collect if the person makes it truly affordable.
Fair,
So
right?
the city is in effect subsidizing it without going out of pocket directly,
Which makes sense.
okay?
Mhm.
There are zoning considerations which can be done. Now, that
Zoning.
started out in City of Yes.
And
And
then
the concept was the following. If you need to put a building in the backyard in order to enable you to carry the mortgage, that's one thing. If you're doing it to make an extra $5 to screw up the community, that's a totally different thing. That has been lost on government at every level in the city of New York.
and you need to discriminate. Or set aside, the two issues. What you started talking about was an individual in crisis.
Right,
What we're talking about at the moment really is longer, larger planning.
right, but regardless, it's macro and micro.
Mhm.
The
Okay.
macro is,
She can help out
there's
on the
no
micro.
affordability, right? There's no affordability, therefore, more people are at risk
Mhm.
of being on the micro concern
Mhm.
of being unhoused, right?
Yeah.
They both have to happen, right? It both has to
Right.
work.
Mhm.
And I'm extremely interested in the campaign for affordability.
Mhm.
At least here, you know, at least around in our district, right? Like, can we talk about, you know, how we can be different, right?
I'm
And
gonna give
be,
you an example. I saw a name up there which reminded me of a different name. Mark Stagg has demonstrated that he is able to build buildings that are cost effective and that provide overall, when finished, a plus for himself and for his community. They're good buildings.
Mhm.
In order for him to reduce the rent, somebody's got to make that affordable for him to do it.
Right,
That is the first question. What is the responsibility of government to do that? In my book, no question. Government has the responsibility to provide adequate shelter for everybody within that area.
Mhm.
Others disagree, okay? So that's issue number one. Issue number two is, what do you do to achieve that? Forego some taxes, you improve zoning benefits, you actually go to work to help him or her develop it. Taking them, for example, to have a person in every community board district, or at least in every borough, whose sole function is, if I'm a developer who is really building affordable, I gotta be a government official who goes to the building department and says, cut out the crap, approve these plans.
You can hear me, you froze.
It's too complex for them. They like easy answers. They're not necessarily gonna win. I apologize.
And for me too, so I mean, I'd love to learn from what you started and have learned over the years and take it from there because, I am passionate about the subject as well.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much for the discussion tonight. My question is, and this is probably unrealistic, but like, I know that affordable housing is a big thing and zoning is what seems to control neighborhood. But just in the whole scheme of housing and everything, there's nothing else. There's resources such as, community center that make things affordable, like, that's not factored in at all into the equation. Is there any possibility of talking
At
to
the-
council
At the
people?
end of the day, it depends on one word, will. If you have a government that have that interest and are willing to do it, rather than looking for the next job, then you would. I haven't seen more years.
So there has to be a council.
Like that area is, as
The city of Yes was to that end.
developer.
Is there anybody
is
who has
free to
any
put
other
commercial
new
spaces in
business?
on the ground floors. They would have to choose.
Daniel?
Do I have a motion to, I'm not trying to cut you.
Yeah, they froze again.
Madam Chair, do I have your permission to adjourn? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marty. You guys keep freezing, so I was
no,
just